This video is the absolute beginner's guide to building with AI app builders. We're going to cover which builder you should use for different use cases. So if you want to build a website, or you want to build an application or a mobile app, or you want to integrate payments, we're going to cover how to set up a Stripe integration so you can get paid for your app and users can actually create accounts and make payments. We're going to cover how to set up a database and what is the tool that you should be using to actually connect a database to your AI apps. And I'm also going to cover how to connect your AI app to third-party integrations and capabilities such as the OpenAI API connection. This video is for complete beginners. If you are brand new and want to know what AI app builders I recommend for different use cases, and you want to get up to speed really quickly, then this is the video for you. So use case number one is you want to build a website using AI. For this use case, I recommend Lovable. Lovable is really great for beginners for building websites because it creates really well-designed websites without having to worry too much about the prompt engineering that's going to go into your design. So prompt engineering is what you ask the AI to generate, and generally, the better the prompt, the better the output is going to be. Now, in my experience, I've seen Lovable do a really good job of taking what you ask. It can be something pretty simple. It must do a lot of behind the scenes work to then generate a really, really nice design. So here is an app that we built with Lovable. Sorry, not an app, a website that we built with Lovable. You can see it looks really, really nice, really well designed. And you can build something similar with other tools like Bolt or Replit or many other tools out there that are able to generate websites. But what I like about Lovable, like I said before, is that it makes it really easy for beginners who don't have that design sense already to kind of take your simple prompts that you're going to put in and then output really nice design. So I definitely recommend Lovable for this. Now, make sure you stick around till the end of the video because I'm going to give you an AI app building hack that's going to save you a lot of time when you're building as a beginner. The next use case I'm going to go over is if you want to build a full SaaS app, meaning you want to have user authentication so users can sign in, sign out. You want to have a backend database so you can have database information saved about that user and associated with that user's account. And you also want to have payments. So you want to have something like Stripe integrated so that users can pay to get access to premium features in your app. Now, you can do this with tools like Bolt and Lovable, but there are two tools right now on the market that I recommend for beginners to do this that make it as easy as possible to integrate all of these three things into your app. So the user authentication, the database, and the Stripe payments. And the first tool I'm going to talk about is Tempo. So that's tempo.new. What I like about Tempo is here, when you ask Tempo what you want to build, so here we are logged in. Let's say we just choose one of their pre-templates here, recipe sharing platform design or sharing platform. What's really nice is here you can choose your authentication and you can choose your payments built in. So when you do this and you set up your database and your authentication before you actually start your app, Tempo has native integration into both Supabase and Stripe to allow you to build that payments and database and user authentication automatically. So Supabase is a tool that allows you to have that database and user login, logout functionality built into your app. And then Stripe is for payments. So Tempo has this ability all built in really easily. Now, one note is every tool I think is headed in this direction. So tools like Bolt have just integrated a Stripe integration. Lovable and Bolt both have Supabase integrations. So it's moving more and more into this direction. But right now, as I'm recording this video, I think Tempo is one of the best tools to make it really easy to do it all in one, especially for beginners who don't have any technical experience. Now, the second app I recommend if you are a complete beginner and want to build a SaaS app with all of the functionality we just talked about is DataButton. The reason I recommend DataButton is similarly, when you are building your first app out, so I'll say recipe sharing app, just to show you, I'll skip the requirements and inspiration. And you can see here they have integration built in as well. What's nice about DataButton is but while they have Supabase, like I talked about before, they have a better native integration with Firebase. Firebase is owned by Google, and it is a little bit different from Supabase. Now, I don't want to get into too much of the technical differences in this video. On a high level, they have different database technology of how they store and retrieve data. But just note that DataButton is the only AI app builder that I've seen that has this native Firebase authentication. So if you want to use Firebase, if you're familiar with that, just know that this is an option here, and they make it really easy to integrate. So if you're going to use DataButton, I do recommend using Firebase. As you can see, they kind of highlight it as native. So DataButton is another great tool if you're a beginner and want to build out that full SaaS app with user authentication, database, and payments all built in at the same time. Something I want to note is that for all of these tools I'm talking about, you can export the code and you can use this code however you want in the future. So you are not locked in the same way you are with other tools like Bubble if you are familiar with building with no-code tools in the past. The next use case I'm going to talk about is connecting an AI API to your application with any of these tools, whether it's Bolt, Lovable, DataButton, Tempo, any of them. I'm going to talk about how this works on a high level so you kind of understand how to integrate any of these external APIs into your app. So an API is essentially a way for the app that we are building to connect to an external service. So a service like OpenAI, for example, OpenAI has an API which allows our application to connect to the capabilities of OpenAI. So we can send a message to OpenAI, and then OpenAI can send a message back to our app. What that could look like is think of ChatGPT. When you send a message, so if you built kind of your own version of ChatGPT, the user sends a message. We can then call the OpenAI API. So calling it means basically sending it a message. So we're going to send it that message with a question. OpenAI is going to take that, and then it's going to send us back a response. That response is, think of the AI responding to your question in ChatGPT, the same kind of thing. And that can be done with OpenAI. It can be done with Anthropic. It can be which is the company that runs Claude. It can be done with Google for various AI functionality. And it can also be done for other types of functionality that aren't necessarily AI APIs. But this is highly relevant if you want to build any type of app that uses text generation, image generation, audio generation, any of that type of generation, and you want to connect to these APIs. So it's important to just understand on a high level what this means and how it works. These tools that I'm talking about all do a pretty good job of working with these APIs. One tip that I would give you is that it is helpful to go to the specific API call that you want to actually run. So let's say it's a chat completion here with OpenAI. And if you go to the example, every kind of API documentation is going to have example documentation like this. If you copy the example request and paste that into the chat, and if you copy the example response and paste that into the chat and tell the AI, hey, here's an example of what the request and response should look like, this is going to help make sure that when the AI app builder writes the code, that it is all working correctly and it's in the right format, because the format really matters. So just a tip there that I recommend doing. Another tip that I recommend doing, and this is the big bonus tip that I wanted to tell you about, before you get started building in any of these tools, I highly recommend using Grok. That is Grok. This is the AI model by XAI. And I recommend using this model to help you write a product requirements description, a PRD. Which is kind of a long description of what your product should do and what the features should be, and then paste that in as your initial prompt into any of the tools that I talked about before. The reason that I want to do this when I'm building an app is that it just gives the AI app builder a lot more context and detail about what you want to build. So the prompt that I would write in Grok, and you can always change this a little bit, but first make sure you're on Grok 3. we want to click on the thinking model, which is going to give it more time to think. So here's the prompt that I like to use, and you can always tweak it a little bit and test out different variations. What I like to say is you are an expert senior developer and product manager. Write a detailed PRD for a junior developer to execute on. The product that I want to build is and then you can put in your product. I'll say a recipe generation app. Please write out in detail the requirements for the app. And then make sure you check think, like I said, and then we're going to send the message. And I'll pause the video while it thinks and writes this message. And then you'll see what I mean and the power of this. And here we are. It is being generated now. So product requirements PRD for recipe generation app. And you can see it writes out an introduction, features and functionality, technical requirements, user journey, competitive analysis, project timeline. I usually cut out the project timeline, but everything else I find to be really helpful. So what I like to do is I read this over. One thing that I would do is also read the backend, and I could have given this a little bit more detail when I'm starting. But for things like the backend, what I would do is if I know I'm using Firebase or Supabase, like I talked about earlier in the video, I would make sure to clarify that here, or we can ask it to tweak the PRD and say, I want to make sure we're using Supabase and Stripe for payments, for example, or Firebase and Stripe for payments. So you can kind of customize that a little bit. So just a note, and then what I would do once I'm happy with it is I would copy it all. I would paste it into whatever AI app builder that we wanted to use. Okay, so far, all the tools that I've been talking about, I recommend using for web applications or websites, meaning users are going to use them in their browser. Now, if you want to build a mobile application that users are going to download in the App Store, while Bolt does have some functionality for that, I recommend using this app called Rork. That's RORK.app. So here we are, and what Rork excels at and specializes in is building cross-platform mobile apps using AI and React Native. Now, what that means, cross-platform, means that the app that it builds is going to be able to be used on both iOS, iPhone, and also Android. So here, I'll test it out real quick, design a fitness tracker. Again, I should do this with the PRD. Why don't I do that real quick just to show you what I mean? So why don't I copy this? Now we're back here. I'm going to edit the prompt. So I want to build is this. I'm going to say the technology is React Native. And then let's click save. And then what we'll get is another version of this PRD by Grok. So I'll pause here. All right, so we have our PRD. So I'm going to go ahead and just scroll down and copy this for now. And let's just copy here. I'll skip the timeline. And let's go ahead and paste that in. So we'll click send. And you can see we sent that really nice long prompt there. So basically what this is giving Rork is just a really specific instruction on what we want. So I'll just pause the video while Rork gets started, and you can see they're optimized for mobile. And you can even test on your phone by scanning the QR code and following the instructions. So pretty cool. And you can see the code as well. So I'll pause the video just so you can see like the initial preview once it's finished with the initial setup that it does. Okay, so here we are literally with one prompt that we sent and then a couple errors that we just had to click fix now, and it fixed it. We have our fitness tracker here. We can see different exercises. We can also sort by type, which is pretty cool. If we go to deadlift, we can log a workout. Let's say 3 reps, 100 kilograms, save workout. And that's it. And then if I go to view history, we can see the history of that. And if we go to stats, we can see the workouts that we have logged. So pretty cool. I mean, there's a lot, obviously, we could build onto that. But anyway, Rork is the tool that I recommend for building native apps right now that you would want users to be able to download in the App Store. I hope that you found this video helpful. Be sure to leave a comment below if you have any questions at all. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more free content like this if you want to learn more about building with AI and no-code tools. If you want to take your AI and no-code tool skills to the next level and you want to take things a little bit more seriously, check the link in the description to go to nocode.mba. No-Code MBA is a learning platform teaching people how to build with AI and no-code tools from start to finish, with dozens of in-depth courses taught by industry experts. Check the link in the description to learn more and see if it'd be a good fit for you. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.